What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back with some more content for you guys. And, it's a very exciting time to be a Spurs fan. I'm very excited for the second half of the season. So we're going to be looking at 5 key points of why you lot out there should be so excited for this second half of the season coming.
Yeah, and Ange Postecoglou said in his press conference, I think it was before the United game, he was asked, how excited are you for the second half of the season? And he was giving some reasons, why we should all be very excited for the second half of the season. And we've basically broken down our, 5 reasons why I think, despite, we've had problems the first half of the season, we've had injuries and all these things, but I think it could all come together in the second half. And look, let's get into it. Let's get into the 5 reasons why we're excited. The first one is, I think, the most obvious one, and that is defenders available. And we've obviously been missing our backline pretty much ever since that Chelsea game. I've actually broken down since that Chelsea game on the 4th of November it was. Spurs have played 11 games. We've conceded 22 goals. It was actually the highest amount of goals in the whole Premier League in that period. So we're the leakiest defence in the Premier League since that time. But you cast your mind back to the first 10 games of the season. We were the 3rd best defence, conceding 9 goals in those first 10 games of the season. And now Romero's back fit. Most importantly, Van de Ven is back fit. He's been missing since that Chelsea game. And we've got Dragusin in through the door, who's obviously going to give us that required depth that we need. And if we can cut those goals in half, we conceded 22 goals in that 11-game stretch when we had pretty much playing 4 fullbacks. If we can cut that gap in half like it was in the first half of the season, like it should be with fit defenders, it's only going to massively better benefit us going into that second half of the season. Yeah, and it's only a massive credit to Ange Postecoglou for us to be where we are at with, the defensive frailties that we have had. I mean, essentially for the whole time of that period, for the majority of that time, it's been Emerson Royale and Ben Davis at centre-back. And yeah, they've done a good job at times. Romero has come in as well at times to help that. But to be where we're at in the league table and in terms of the points we've accumulated in that times, level on points with Arsenal right now, was it 5 or 6 points behind top of the table, Liverpool, at this current moment in time. I mean, it's only going to make us so much better going into the second half of the season, having all these options available. I mean, obviously, it's quite obvious what I'm saying. Like, we're only going to get better with actual defenders in the back line, but it's such a testament to Ange and what he's been doing at this football club to keep us at this level. I don't know any other club that can play with their backup fullbacks at centre-back for a long, prolonged amount of time. And not only the fullbacks at centre-back is the issue, everywhere else on the pitch we've been depleted. It's like basically you're saying if Arsenal had Gabriel, Saliba, Odegaard and Declan Rice all out, you're telling me they would be where they are at right now? No chance. They'll be knocking around mid-table right now. So I can't credit Ange enough for the work that he has done. And with these defenders coming back into the frame now, we know we can score goals. It's just about keeping it out the other end. And I think that is what is going to help us. Yeah, and even if we do pick up an injury now at centre-back, which look, hopefully we won't with Van de Ven and Romero now back and available, even we do, with Dragusin into the team now, we do have depth there. So we can hopefully survive a bit better than we have been recently. And as I say, that 11-game stretch, that's actually more than the majority of our games this season. We've played 21 Premier League games. More than half of those have been without 2 fit centre-halves. So I think having those defenders back is going to make a massive difference. I hope they can stay fit for the second half of the season. But even if we do pick up an injury, we now have depth, which we didn't have in the first half of the season. So that's also absolutely vital going to the second half.
Yeah, well, let's get into the second reason to be excited for the second half of the season, and that is the return of James Madison. I mean, what a first 10 games or however long it was he had. Best player in the Premier League, and we've missed him so much. The creative void has been there for all to see, albeit we have done a fairly good job in terms of scoring goals and attacking since he has been out. But tell me the reasons why we're so excited about James Madison's return.
Yeah, without the obvious, the first 10 games, he was exemplary, one of the best players, if not the best player in the Premier League for those first 10 games of the Premier League season. In terms of just the basic stats, he had 3 goals and 6 assists in those first 10 games, which I don't think anyone else in our midfield has matched in the 11 games since then, although Lo Celso and Kulusevski have filled in quite well. But this stat, I think, is the most telling. In the first 10 games, if you look at the Premier League as a whole, for all players in the Premier League who have played 10 or more games this season, Madison sits right at the top for key passes per 90 minutes, which is 3.16. Lo Celso and Kulusevski did well filling in the meantime. Lo Celso got 2.39 and Kulusevski 2.32. But having Madison back in the frame, the amount of chances he's going to be able to create for our front line once he's back it's going to basically take our attack up a notch, and it's going to be so important to have him back in the team. It's going to obviously give us more options in the midfield, and it's so vital that he's going to be back and available because I'm sorry. He was so. I'm getting emotional thinking. I just think he was. I can't wait to see him back on the pitch, basically. And I think the stats bear out how important he was in the first half of the season. And we've had to cope without our chief creator for the last 11 games. And in fact, even taking that into account, we've actually done quite well on the attacking front. In that 11-game stretch since Madison's been missing, we're still second for goals scored, with 22 goals scored in those 11 games. So we need credit for being able to maintain a pretty good attacking output even without Madison. That even goes to show how like scarily good we could be once you add Madison back into the mix, because I feel like we're finally getting going with Ange Postecoglou's formation, how we're playing. And obviously we were still learning. It was still very early on when Madison was in the team. But now he's going to be back. He's going to have better support as well. And I'm so excited to see him, what he can do with now we're a few months down the line in our project.
Yeah, I feel like Madison, the returning Madison, can have... I know they're not the same level of player, and the player I'm going to talk about is a lot better than James Madison, but I feel like it can have a similar impact to what Kevin De Bruyne is going to have on Man City. You know, Man City are always going to be able to score goals without Kevin De Bruyne. But with Kevin De Bruyne in the side, it just takes that up tenfold. And I feel like that's what's going to happen with Spurs. You know, we're able to score goals without James Madison. We're able to create without James Madison. But with him back in the team, it just takes our team up so many levels. And we saw that in the first 10 games of the season. And I'm so excited to have him back for the second half of the season. Let's hope we can keep him fit for the rest of the season now, because he's such a pivotal player, not just on the ball, off the ball as well, in terms of his leadership on the pitch. He just like G's up all the players, and he's a player that everyone can look to and take example from as well. I just love what he's brought to Tottenham, and it's great to have him back. So that is number 2. Let's look at number 3, and that is the versatile attack.
Yeah, and I've cast your mind back to, the first basically the first half of the season. I feel like there hasn't been that much. I mean, our attack has rotated, but I feel like we now have, going into the second half of the season, with Werner through the door, with hopefully Solomon coming back from injury as well. Obviously, Son's away at the Asia Cup at the moment, but he'll be back in mid-February. So in maximum 3 games' time, he's going to be back available for Tottenham. So looking at our attack now, if you cast your mind back to the first element of the season, I don't feel like there was that much rotation for players playing in their most natural positions. I feel like we were shoehorning players in different positions because we had a lack of cover in a lot of positions. We had Johnson playing a number of games on the left-hand side. Richie had to fill in on the left-hand side a few times as well. You've had Son and Richie rotating up front. Kulusevski's had to play on the right-hand side, rotating with Johnson as well. But now, with Werner through the door, with Son coming back, with Solomon coming back from injury, we have, if you look at our front line now, you have 3 players in each position you could really fill in and do a really good job in each position. On the left-hand side, you've got Solomon coming back, you've got Werner there on the left, and you've got Son who's doing a job up front. You've got Rishi performing really well. Son's showed he can play up front as well. And now you've got another option, Werner, if we really want to play him up front. We know he can play that role.
Alejo Veliz as well.
Alejo Veliz, obviously he's injured at the moment, but he can come back. And on the right-hand side, now hopefully we'll have Johnson more often than not in his favoured position on the right. Kulusevski, we know he can play that role. And Werner as well, if we really need, if we do pick up injuries, Werner can also fill in on the right. So I really feel like that versatility that Werner brings is going to be so important in the second half of the season, filling in roles that we need him to. And I think it just gives our attack so many more options in terms of how we can place it, and it really allows us to really cater our attack to certain games as well. And I just think the versatility of our attack is definitely a lot better than it was in the first half of the season.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a good point, especially with Madison feeding them from behind them as well. But having said that, I am looking at the attacking options still, and I'm still thinking like we need an out-and-out one-on-one winger that can really go on and take on the fullback. I'm not sure if any of those wingers are really like elite at it, to be honest. So I would still want to look at that in the summer and bring in a winger, maybe two. But with Solomon coming back and players coming back, we do have many options there. So it should stand us in good stead, and especially when you're looking to change things when bringing on players off the bench. I mean, recently, in the last 10 games or whatever it been, we'd look at the bench and there's just no one there to change it. You look at the Man United game, Ange was so reluctant to use that bench because it was essentially just packed with kids, right, from the academy. But now with all these players coming back, we're going to have a lot of options there in a lot of different positions. So yeah, that is another reason why we should be excited.
And it's going to make us more unpredictable, I feel, because I feel like because now we're so much more versatile in our options, it's going to be harder for teams to know exactly who we're going to play. Maybe we can change the, maybe some games we can play with Charleston up front, some games even Werner up front. It's going to make a team selection for opposition managers a lot more of a headache for us when they're facing us. So I think that unpredictability is something that maybe we've been missing a bit in that first half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though like the first 10 games we were very unpredictable because it was a new thing. Nobody knew what Ange Ball was all about. And we did spring surprises on teams, I felt. But like since these injuries and this unprecedented injury crisis that Spurs have had has hit us, then yeah, maybe we have become a bit more predictable. But second half of the season, that is all about to change, people. But let's look at number 4, and that number 4 is going to be Bentancur, fully fit.
Yeah, and for the first time this season, he completed 90 minutes against Man United on Sunday. And that really kind of marks the real return of Bentancur back to his best, back to full fitness. And it's amazing to think about for the whole season, pretty much, up until the Bournemouth game. Or barring 20 minutes against Villa, we have literally been missing our best midfielder in the squad. I don't think people realise how important Bentancur was, especially for us last season, but how important and how much of an upgrade he's going to be in midfield for us going into that second half of the season. I think him filling in either in the number 6 or the number 8 role is something we've missed, even though we've done well midfield, and obviously our midfield competed. But Bentancur has definitely been, his quality, his ability, not just on the ball, but off the ball as well, has been sorely missed in the squad. And he's made such an impact, even in the short amount of times that he's come back into the team. He's made such an impact already in the team. I think against Man United, there was a stat, he covered more ground than any other midfielder in the team. And that's him with his first 90 minutes of the whole season. And he's also going to have to make up for lost time because of, the injury he's occurred. And obviously, once there was a big fear, wasn't there, this month with Basuma and Sarr being out and at the AFCON, but we didn't think we had Bentancur available, but now he's available, he's fit, so he can fill in this month while they're back, and then they're going to be back as well. And imagine we haven't seen Bentancur and Madison together yet. They haven't played one game together.
Or Bentancur and Basuma.
Yeah, Bentancur and Basuma. Like we haven't seen anywhere near our best midfield yet, which is mad to think, because our midfield has been one of our strong points this season, yet we're still yet to see the best of our midfield yet this season. So it's just mouth-watering, the thought of Bentancur coming back into this team fully fit, and we're already seeing what a difference he could make.
I love Bentancur so much. I think he's such a good player. I completely agree with you. He's our best midfielder, hands down. And it's not just what he brings us on the ball, off the ball as well. He's an absolute animal on that football pitch. Leadership ability he brings us. I think he should be part of that leadership group of Romero, Madison and Heung-min Son. He definitely should be in there. He's one of the leading players in the squad, and for him to be out for such a long period has been an absolute kick in the teeth for us. And now he's back, now he's showing what he's about. And even that Man United game, however good he was, he's still got so many more levels to go up than that. You just look at that Aston Villa game when he came back from the ACL. In that first 20 minutes, was breathtaking. I can't remember seeing a better midfield performance than that in the first 20 minutes than Bentancur. Like, how good was that performance until Matty Cash absolutely destroyed him? You know what I mean? Like, if we could start to see those levels week in, week out, we were seeing those levels week in, week out before he got that injury. So if we can get him back to those levels, which I'm pretty much certain we can, then we have not just got the best midfielder in our squad. This is one of the best midfielders in the league. guys. This is not just one of the best midfielders in our squad. So to have him back and James Maddison back in the same team, where you're looking at two of the best midfielders in the Premier League, it is going to be a sight to behold. As well, when Sonny comes back, Richarlison is firing with the goals he's scoring as well. So yeah, that is definitely another reason to be excited. And the last reason to be excited, we are going to go for through the worst now.
Yeah, and I think ever since that Chelsea game, I remember casting back to that the day after that Chelsea game when we're hearing all the injury news. Madison's out for 3 months, Van de Ven's out for 3 months. We knew Bentancur was still injured. We've obviously had unbelievable. Obviously, Romero was out for 3 games. The big talking point of that period was, are we gonna are we gonna be able to keep pace while these players are out? How are we gonna react to these players being out now? Obviously, it's been a bumpy road for the last 11 games. In fact, if you take those last 11 games in isolation, we're 11th place in the form table during that period. But we might be 11th place, but you look at the league table overall, we're still only 3 points off third. We're 5 points off top. We're very, very much in that top 4 race. And we don't get enough credit for being able to keep pace in the race for those Champions League places, or even top 3. Because you look at other teams around us, Man United haven't been able to do it, Newcastle haven't been able to do it, Chelsea haven't been able to do it. These are teams with very good squads and also looking for similar ambitions to us, and they've completely fallen off. They're well off the pace in terms of, if you look at the league table. Yet we've had all these injuries, suspensions, all these problems, and yet we're still right in the mix for those top 3 places. And I really think now, coming through the worst of that period, I think if I would have told you after that Chelsea game, in 11 games time, we're still going to be 3 points off third, you would have put my hand up. You'd have been delighted. And that's where we sit. And now all our players are back. Now all coming back at least. Now we're through that bad period. And I think hopefully it's only upwards from here.
And that brings me back to the point one, what I was saying. It's a testament to Ange Postecoglou for being able to deal with these kind of injuries, these kind of suspensions, these absentees from the team. No other manager like Jose or Conte would have been able to deal with this many absentees in the squad. They couldn't hardly deal with the team at its strongest, you know what I mean? So I don't think any other club, barring maybe Man City, could have dealt with the amount of injuries and suspensions we had as well. And to keep us up there, 5 points off the top of the league, I'm not even looking at top 4. I think if we don't get top 4 now, it should be seen as a bit of a failure, to be honest, the way we've gone this season with all our players coming back. I'm looking at top 3 from now until the end of the season. I don't see a reason why we shouldn't be getting better and better now throughout the course of the second half of the season. With the calibre of players that we have returning, Madison, Bentancur, Son coming back from the AFCON, Pape Sarr and Bissouma also coming back. Sorry, Sonny coming back from Asia, and the AFCON returnees in Bissouma and Sarr, as well as the defence coming back with Mickey van de Ven, Romero, Dragusin has come in as well. I don't see why we're not going to have an absolutely sensational second half of the season. And if there's any sort of drop-off in Liverpool or Man City, I think Spurs are going to be there. I really do. But I do recognise that obviously Man City and Liverpool are very, very strong, and they are the 2 favourites, and they will probably finish first and second. But if there is any sort of drop-off from these 2 teams, we're going to be there.
And you add into the account, there's no into the fold for the second half of the season, there's not much pressure on us because no one really expected much of us this season. Add into that no European football compared to all the teams we're competing against. They're all going to be in Europe. That's going to stretch their squads even more. So hopefully the less games there, no European football for us, can give us those 3 weeks of training and hopefully allow the players to get even more acclimatized to what Ange wants. I think it's super exciting for what we can do. I honestly can't wait for the second half of the season. I think we're in for something really, really special. I really believe that. And I think and also the beauty of the injury crisis we've been through is if we do pick up a few injuries, hopefully the squad, having been through that experience, won't panic. And we know we've been through it and we can handle it.
We didn't panic the first time. And look, we had poor results when it first happened. What was it, like 4 defeats in 5 games or 3 defeats in, I don't know, I can't remember what it was. But
I'll be surprised if we go for another run like that. If we
won't unless the same kind of injury crisis presents itself, and that's very highly unlikely. But you never know with Spurs what can happen, to be honest. But if we can keep these players fit, and we have a fit, strong squad from now to the end of the season, and when you get injuries, it's only one here, one there.
Instead of everyone at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, we should be able to keep pace from now to the end of the season, and you never know if we're still like just hanging on in there until that April run when we have City, Liverpool, Arsenal. You never know what can happen.
Can make a big difference, that run.
Yeah. So those are the 5 reasons why we're excited for the second half of the season. Let us know in the comment section below. How excited are you for the second half? What can Spurs achieve this season? Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.